Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Welcome to Sunday's edition of the dceu Daily, and yes, Warner Brothers are running out of excuses not to release the Snyder Cut. This is according to Screen Rant, and I'm going to read the article out to you very, very imminently. But it's absolutely true. They have no excuses, no more excuses. But the point is, they've never made any excuses. So they've never spoken about this publicly. Now, we've heard lots of things leak out that maybe when people were ringing up AT&T, Warner Brothers were just saying just humour them, just to get rid of them, basically. And also with this wonderful letter-writing campaign with the Snyder dollars, you don't know if Ann Sarnoff's going to see it, hear about it, or it's just going to be incinerated. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep on fighting. Of course she's going to know. She knows. She's on the internet. She's got some kind of secret account where she can see what's going on. She knows we want to see this film. So let's read this article by Brad Curran. So let's have a look. Nearly 2 years after the theatrical release of Justice League, there's no longer any reason left for Warner Brothers to not release the film's much-discussed Snyder Cut. Following the tragic loss of his daughter during the film post-production, Zack Snyder stepped down from directing duties on Justice League, with the studio bringing in Joss Whedon to oversee reshoots, although Warner Brothers assured fans that these were typical pickups in the lead up to the film's release. It will become clear that this was far from the case, and that the version of Justice League released into theatres was a massive shift from Snyder's intended vision for the film. Since then, DC fans have engaged in one grassroots initiative after another in a bid to convince Warner Bros. To release the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Zack Snyder himself has teased his cut extensively on social media, revealing just how stark the differences are between the two versions of the film. More recently, the campaign has gained further prominence and media attention by the growing number of Justice League cast and crew members voicing their support for the release of Snyder's original cut of the film, with Jason Momoa giving it an especially prominent endorsement during the Aquaman press tour. With the ongoing efforts by fans of Snyder's DC films to see the Snyder Cut, it's clear at this point that it will remain an omnipresent topic among DC films until it is actually released. Ultimately, the power to authorise the cut's release rests entirely with Warner Brothers. However, when one examines the situation overall, it becomes clear that whatever reasons Warner Bros. May have had until now for not releasing the Snyder Cut, there's no rational basis left to continue sitting on it. The very existence of the Snyder Cut itself has arguably been the biggest point of contention for as long as the campaign for its release has gone on. The official word for a long time was, when Snyder stepped down for the film, his cut of Justice League was at best a rough assembly of the scenes he had shot for the film, with little to none of the necessarily visual effects or ADR work completed, or even near completion. That perception would gradually change, with Snyder releasing a steady stream of never-before-seen images from his cut of the film on social media. These teases offered considerable and anecdotal evidence on Snyder's part of the existence of another version of Justice League. At the same time, storyboard artist Jake Oliver would confirm the cut's existence on several occasions. After over a year of Snyder's social media teases and fan campaigns, the topic of an alternate cut of Justice League ultimately came to a head during the Director's Cut event held by Snyder in March, where the director himself publicly confirmed the existence of his cut of Justice League for the first time. In the ensuing months, the existence of the Snyder Cut would also receive further confirmation from filmmaker Kevin Smith, and Jason Momoa recently confirmed he has been shown the Snyder Cut as well. While estimates have varied on the overall completeness of Snyder's cut of the film, some estimates ranging as high as $40 million. John Aaron Garza there. The consensus is that it's far more than a rough assembly of raw footage, and there's always been evidence to believe it was significantly complete. Snyder has given little specificity on the exact state of the cut, that's true, other than specifying a particular shot of Steppenwolf's defeat was never completed beyond the previous image he shared. But considering he also described it as done during his director's cut event, and he can give an exact runtime of 214 minutes, and has been showing it to people he's close with, like Jason Momoa, it's clear a release is far within the bounds of reality. Whether it will be released in a mostly complete state or receive proper funding for 100% completion is the only question. Aside from the existence of the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League now being beyond dispute, what is equally clear is that the push for its release is highly unlikely to subside. The fan-organised campaign for the cut's release began almost immediately after the film's theatrical debut, with a change.org petition netting nearly 180k signatures during the film's opening weekend. Since then, DC fans have continued an ongoing effort to persuade the studio to release the cut, in a variety of ways, including flying an airborne banner over the studio lot, in addition to numerous other fan-driven initiatives. Both big and small, these efforts by DC fans culminated in an endeavour to spread awareness of the Snyder Cut at the 2019 San Diego Comic-Con. On top of that, fans have rallied behind the cause of suicide prevention, with their collective efforts having raised thousands of dollars for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. In honour of Snyder's daughter Autumn, all of this clearly shows that the demand for the Snyder Cut is not only there, but it's not going away. What's more, the cast and crew of Justice League have also started to get in on the action as well. The film's director of photography, Fabian Wagner, gotta love Fabian, check him out on Instagram by the way, along with storyboard artist Jay Oliver, and he's really sat some trolls down as well on Twitter, he's been brilliant, check him out on Twitter, have both vocally supported the Snyder Cut's release. Additionally, Ray Fisher, possibly the most impacted of any of the principal cast by the film's reshoots, has also supported the cut's release. Jason Momoa has arguably provided the most visible rallying cry of anyone directly connected to the film, publicly calling for its release, and later confirming to have seen it on social media. Other prominent media figures have also begun publicly advocating for release the Snyder Cut's version of the film, including Kevin Smith, as already mentioned, along with Deadpool co-creator Rob Liefeld. Yeah, Rob's recently been posting a lot. He's been very supportive. Additionally, the Snyder Cut has also received further support in the comics community, such as Death of Superman co-writer Jerry Ordway. With the sheer momentum of the fan campaign, along with a growing number of Justice League cast and crew members and other public figures voicing their support, it's clear at this point that the Snyder Cut is a Pandora's box that is simply never going to be closed. Another factor that has been seen as blocking the release of the Snyder Cut has been the question of canonicity. With a significantly altered version of Justice League having already been released in theatres, Warner Bros. Could well be reluctant to release the Snyder Cut on the basis of contradicting the already established version within the DCEU canon. To be sure, Snyder's social media teases and other information that's been publicly revealed have made clear that his cut of Justice League is different enough from the theatrical version to essentially be a completely different movie. However, a number of factors demonstrate that this would not be a true barrier to the release of Snyder's version of the film, not the least of which being Jason Momoa's revelation that Aquaman was given a direct setup by Snyder's cut during the press tour for the film, essentially indicating that Aquaman flowed more naturally from Snyder's version of Justice League. Interesting, yes. However, even if Warner Bros. Sees it as too big of a departure from canon, they've already displayed a clear intent to make the future DC films less connected. The upcoming Joker film has been positioned as an Elseworlds one-off, with a potential of leading to more such movies in the future under a DC Black label. Additionally, it's unknown just how much or how little connection Matt Reeves' The Batman will have to the DCEU, with the same being true for Ava DuVernay's New Gods, of course. Other DC films, such as next year's Birds of Prey, are clearly set within the larger franchise, and with Aquaman being DC's biggest hit ever, there's sure also to be the case for the forthcoming Aquaman 2. However, what this ultimately makes clear is that With or without the Snyder Cut being released, Warner Brothers is already venturing into making DC movies set outside of the established continuity of the DCEU. That essentially makes the idea of the DCEU's canon being a blockade to the release of a different version of Justice League, a moot point. Of course, should Warner Brothers choose to approve the release of the Snyder Cut, that obviously opens a question of the platform through which it would be released to the public. In this case, however, Warner Brothers already has a built-in mechanism with which to release it in the form of the upcoming HBO Max streaming service, which is set to launch next year. The platform will serve as a streaming outlet for all Warner Brothers' own content and affords the studio several advantages in how they could put Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League out to the world. The first benefit is that it will be a comparatively easy method by which to release the Snyder Cut, essentially concentrating the film in a single location for viewers to flock to. This also has the added benefit of incentivizing a greater number of subscribers, with a never-before-seen version of Justice League sure to draw attention from the casual viewers, along with fans already campaigning for the Snyder Cut's release, enticing an entire new wave of potential subscribers for HBO Max. Additionally, an HBO Max release could serve as a perfect testing ground for Warner Brothers to set up a subsequent home media release, which would give the studio a second source of revenue to draw from Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. HBO Max, being a digital platform, also means quick and easy distribution at a minimal cost. Even if Warner Brothers simply wants to unceremoniously dump the cut to wash their hands of the whole situation, HBO Max is the perfect solution there as well. The decision to release the Snyder Cut is one that Warner Brothers alone has the power to make. However, everything that has happened in the time since the theatrical release of Justice League clearly demonstrates that releasing his cut of the film is the wisest course of action for the studio to take. Fans have campaigned for it relentlessly, and over time, even the cast and crew have also begun to join. Furthermore, Warner Brothers has an ideal platform to release it in the form of HBO Max, while the idea of contradicting an established canon has no real weight given the studio's own approach to both past and upcoming DC films. 2 years from the film's theatrical release, it's clear that the topic of the Snyder Cut of Justice League can only be put to rest by Warner Brothers releasing it, and at this point, there's really no reason left not to. What a brilliant freaking article. I really like that, and I really want to talk about the points this article makes. Yes, it's a very interesting article, and I really enjoyed reading it to you, and it makes some very valid points. It's not like the other articles I've read to you. It doesn't really it doesn't do the histrionics. It does a little bit, but mainly it's telling you why Warner Brothers have no excuse not to release this film. Worrying about a mixture of canon doesn't matter if you make it clear to the audience this is just an extended cut. How many extended, when you get an extended cut, it's left to the audience's perception which version of the film you're actually going to kind of embrace. It's the same with all the cuts we got of Terminator 2. It's the same thing as the Lord of the Ring extended editions. It doesn't change anything because you got an extra scene. Basically, right, obviously, the Snyder Cut is different in tone because the theatrical version of Justice League is a tone reboot. It's trying to be lighter, it's trying to be brighter, it's trying to be a family movie. Literally, it's trying to be an MCU movie, right? Now, if that succeeded and made $1 billion or $2 billion, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. Nobody will be seeing Snyder's Cut of Justice League ever. They'd be carrying on with Joss Whedon. He'd already be writing and directing a Batgirl film and then afterwards a Superman film. There's no question about that. But it wasn't successful. It failed. What Sugihara wanted to do and Jeff Johns, basically what they wanted to do failed, right? And so all the people who came to this decision to take a man's creation, art, and cut it to pieces have gone. Their decision-making led to Warner Brothers losing a lot of money, and no business, and especially no studio, is going to tolerate that, when all they had to do was allow the man to release his cut and then bin him, and then say, Zach, I'm sorry, you're too controversial, you're too unique, mate, we can't be having this every film. And we all would have understood that, and they would have gone a new direction. But what they did was so stupid, so wrong, so crass, and so cruel. And they don't have to admit to any mistakes because they've admitted to the mistakes by sacking the people that were involved, right? Now, they may have found reasons to get rid of Diane Nelson, like leaving for personal reasons or giving Jeff Johns a production company and things like that. But we know the truth, the consumer isn't stupid, the public isn't stupid, and we all know they have no excuse. The canonised situation doesn't matter because they're going there. They're doing what they're doing now with New Line Cinema. That's fine. If it's on HBO Max, we watch the film. We wait for it to be released on, hard copy as well. They're going to make a lot of money out of this. They are. And maybe this is why they've been building up and letting people get in, do the campaign to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. Maybe they've always planned on releasing the Snyder Cut. Who knows? Ultimately, this guy writing this has made a great point. This isn't going away. This is never, ever, ever going away. The public are not going to let this go. If they released this earlier, these campaigns wouldn't have started, and they could have just released it under the helmet. Basically, like Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. I mean, people spoke about that film. People even reviewed the whole film again thanks to that cut. But at the end of the day, there wasn't a fuss around that release because it literally just left cinemas, the theatrical version, when they released it a few days in theatres and then to the public on hard copy, right, and digital platforms, right? But this has been nearly 2 years now since the theatrical cut was released. I think I want an announcement by the end of this year. It's the same as the Superman thing. I want to hear there's a Superman movie by the end of this year. I don't want to wait anymore. I want to know if Henry Cavill's in or out. And it's the same as the Snyder Cut. I just want to know. Are you going to release it or are you not going to release it? Stop stringing us along. These campaigns that we've all helped support have done a wonderful job. But now it's time for Warner Brothers and now their new CEO, incumbent CEO, Ann Sarnoff, comes out in front of the gates of Warner Brothers Studios and says, listen, and she's holding the Snyder dollars and she says, listen, your campaigns have been amazing. We have listened to you and we're going to have a chat with Zack Snyder and we are planning on releasing the Snyder Cut. On whatever platform they decide to do it, I don't really care. It's not even something I want to discuss. How they do it, I don't care. The point is they need to do it. PR and marketing-wise, this will be brilliant for Warner Brothers. This really will because Disney is starting to upset the public. Now, in terms of doing this, it's a win-win. It's going to make money. It may cost a little bit to finish off the film. So what? Just do it. There's so many director's cuts every year, for crying out loud. Just finish this film, release the Snyder Cut, and let's please just move on.